All right, everyone, welcome back to episode 86 of the 580 show. We got a special one this week. It's myself and CJ Pierce. What's going on, man?
How we doing, guys?
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come on. I thought it was timely with you. So this episode will actually be out on Sunday, so it'll be the day after you compete. But you're competing this Saturday at Clash of the 90s in Lakeland, Florida, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Flying
So,
out Thursday at midnight.
oh yeah.
Yeah, we got I got some obligations I gotta do Thursday, so I'm flying out Thursday at midnight, and then I'll be in Florida by 7 a.m. for weigh-ins.
Yeah, there you go, right into it. So you've already done a class show. You actually punched up into the 105s. I was actually there to watch you compete. So you kind of I I think that's kind of advantageous for you seeing. I think class shows run differently, it seems, watching and being there in person than a traditional strongman show. So that's cool that you've already been at one before, right? So you have the
Yeah, I mean it is a little different, because I think the biggest difference between class shows and your typical strongman show to do, like, for example, you've done nationals, I've done nationals, we know how those run. You kind of have time to warm up, you have time to kind of plan for different things. With Clash, it's all live streamed, and the goal is, of course, for it to be user friendly and for it to be viewer friendly. So with that, as the caveat of the athletes might not have the same amount of warm up time, you might have limited implements. So it is ran a little differently. You kind of have to adapt to it as you go.
right.
I will say, after the first event, usually you're pretty good because you get that nice little back pop out, and then you're usually pretty okay the rest of the show.
Yeah.
So it is something you have to adapt to, though, for sure.
I think I really think you're like, especially you're athletic, like you'll be built for that. I see some of your workouts like on Instagram and stuff when you post to your page, like you're in and out, it seems in like less than an hour for sure sometimes. So like seems like your conditioning, you're gonna be good. I mean,
Yeah,
and
I mean, it's definitely something that I focused on, especially after doing that Clash of the 105s. I kind of realized how different, the show was, the environment, how fast paced it is. You kind of have to almost adapt your training to deal with that kind of volume. Especially with Clash of the 90s, which is going to be a really taxing show. You have you have a press medley that ends with a max rep log press.
right.
You have a yoke to 50 feet, and then 3 sandbags to 50 feet. That's another very cardio intensive task. Then you have, a 13-inch deadlift for max reps, a circus dumbbell for max reps.
Yeah.
And the frame carry, the frame carry is a frame carry. Most guys will be good there. But then you have, a 7-bag toss series as well. So it's a series of very cardiovascular intensive events with very little rest in between. So
Yeah.
I've had to adapt my training to be ready for this, to take this on.
Yeah. I'm really excited because I think the 200, you guys are like, and I'm really happy like Strongman Corp recently made it its own class, right? Because you've won the 200s at nationals, I believe, twice, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but it's always been that confusing subcategory. And I think now what we're seeing in Strongman 200 is like a really, really prominent class and has the potential to be like probably the biggest class because it's like a, a the average sized person that trains is around that 200 range, right? So I just think it has the potential to be just such a huge class.
Yeah, and one of the trends I'm noticing now that the 90s is getting bigger is I have a lot of friends who are 231s who were competing up. However, now that there's more opportunities in the 200s, they've realized, okay, it might be advantageous to go down to where my natural body weight sits.
Sure.
For me personally, I'm a 5'8" guy. I'm not super tall. Filling out to like 240 pounds, it's not the easiest task. There's a lot of guys who have done it successfully. I have not so far. The heaviest I can get is about 220 without feeling gross. Um, but I agree with you. I think the U80s, U90s, it's two of the most competitive classes right now in strongman, just because the average size humans around those weight classes.
Yeah. It's cool because like you can see Brian Shaw and it's kind of reiterating what you were saying, but you can see Brian Shaw lifting a car. It's like, well, that's really cool. He's obviously super strong, but he's 425 pounds and 6'8". Like I'm never gonna be, no matter what I do, I can't be 6'8", 425 pounds. But you see a guy that's like, oh, these guys are 175 or 200 pounds, and they're, CJ lifted a 386 pound axle. and he weighs 200 pounds. Like that, I think that's so relatable to like the average person that's watching that it makes it really appealing.
Yeah, I think, especially with the way the sport's going, we kind of have two directions. You can make the sport more appealing by having freaks, which is, our super heavyweight class with those freaks who are shouldering, 400-pound stones for reps, all that crazy stuff that goes on up there. Or you can make the sport more relatable, which is kind of what the U80s and U90s kind of aims for, is,
Right.
relatable people. If someone was to watch Clash of the U90s, they might be able to say, okay, a 600-pound, 13-inch deadlift, how many reps can I hit there?
Right.
So I think making the sport more appealable and giving the 80s, 90s such a large platform will really be beneficial for strongman as a whole.
For sure. Um, I was you kind of mentioned the events, but I think they're interesting. I want to talk about them too. The first event's a press medley, so it's an axle, block, and then log for reps in 60 seconds, and it's a 275 axle, 180 block, and then a 270 log for reps. I
Yeah.
think that's a pretty fun medley. And those are
Yeah,
huge.
I think it's really cool. And the last log is press away, which is very interesting because it's such a technical ending.
Mhm.
And obviously you got the axle at the start, which is a taxing lift. The block, which a 180 block is more of just it's there for show, right? It's guys
Yeah.
pressing the block above their head. But anything of a 270 log, it's cool. How many reps can you hit with 270 above your head, press away? It'll be an interesting event for sure.
Yeah. I think the block, this is kind of a side note, but it seems like, I mean, you're very experienced in strongman. Like there's way everything goes in waves. Like we're seeing a sandbag over two shoulder wave right now. It seems like the block is on a huge resurgence right now.
Yeah, there's, I think part of it, we've seen a couple guys who have hit world records recently.
Yeah.
Like Jacob Faraday recently hit a world record. Aaron T from California hit the
Mhm.
U90 block press record. So I think with these records and with people, seeing the records go up, I think it's become a more prevalent event because now promoters are like, oh, guys are getting back into this again. It
Right.
might be a draw.
Yeah, for sure. Um, the second event, yoke into sandbag. So 50-foot yoke, and then all the sandbags are 50 foot away too. And it's kind of strategical because whatever your height your yoke is at is what you load over, right? So
Yeah, so if you're a dominant yoke guy, like for me, like I'm pretty good on the yoke. I feel very comfortable with a heavy yoke on my back. I might set, an inch lower than I usually would,
yeah,
just to make the load over the bar a little easier. Um, Now the sandbags being all at 50 feet and it having, I think it's a 90-second time cap.
yeah, 90 seconds. That's
Yeah, I
gonna
mean
be
it's
a
actually
burn. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, that's gonna be tough.
it's 400 feet of running with 200 feet of that being a front load. That's a
Yeah.
very intense event. And I've trained at the comp weight a couple times as the second event in my training day. And oh, man, you start going. I actually had a nightmare last night about that event. That they switched it to a 3-tire medley. And I was like, oh, my poor bicep, it's not going to do it.
Yeah.
But it'll be an interesting event. I like that it's the second event of the day. I think it's going to make the other events that much more challenging.
Two so like on paper, 225, 250, and 275 doesn't seem that heavy when you see like guys like you compete. And there's a lot of studs in your class. But I think it's like you said, all that running. I don't think everyone in the class will finish that. I definitely think it'll be tough to finish that event.
No, and we had this discussion actually. It's funny. We've been talking. Obviously, we're all pretty much buddies in the '90s class.
Yeah.
It's like the '80s. It's a tight
Yeah.
knit community. The '90s guys are the same way. We're pretty tight knit. And we were talking about that medley, and we're like, man, this is going to be the most brutal event that we've ever done. And not because the weights are crazy, but just because it's so many it's so many events in so many sandbag carries in a row to that front low position. Your quads are going to be on fire by the end of it.
Right. I
So
I think too, like all these events, and there's a couple more to say, but they're all going to be super fun to watch as a spectator. Like,
yeah, and I think I like the inclusion of this event because at first, I'll be honest, I looked at it, I said, man, can't we just do an 800 yoke to 50 and then like a 300 sandbag to 30, then a 50 sandbag 10 feet away?
yeah,
Because
right,
I'm lazy, I just wanted it heavier so that there'd be less running. But when we think about from a viewer standpoint, 225, 250, 275, once again, it's relatable for people who are watching.
right,
And I think it highlights the athleticism of our class, the athleticism, the cardiovascular endurance that some of the guys in our weight class have.
for
Um,
sure.
yeah.
And then the next event's a Hummer tire deadlift with an axle, and that's always just and it's head to head, which I like. That makes it really fun seeing two guys like ADL streaming it, so it's going to be a good quality and everything like that. Again, for the spectators, super fun to watch because it's like you do an axle deadlift for reps, but then adding those Hummer tires, I think, makes it look even cooler.
Yeah, and the head-to-head element, I just don't want to be next to Nick O'Hare because I know he's
Yeah, yeah,
20 reps. So I just don't want to be next to that guy. As long as they can put me next to somebody who I can kind of keep up with on that event, I'll be cool. Just don't put me next to Nick.
right. He's a freak too.
He's a good puller. He's a real good puller.
Yeah. And then circus dumbbell again, head to head. I'm sure you're gonna like that event. A second overhead for you.
Yeah, no, I love circus dumbbell. I think it's a really fun event. And we're using the big dog circus, which is another cool viewer element to it because it's got that big old fat 3-inch handle versus the typical 2-inch handle. So with that, I think it's gonna be another spectator friendly event where people are gonna watch, be like, whoa,
Right.
that's pretty intense. And of
180
course,
pounds too.
180 pounds. Yeah.
Yeah, 180. That's tough. I mean, 200. You have 200 pound guys pressing 180 over their head for reps, and with one arm.
With one arm, and not to mention it's the fourth event of the day after pretty much 3 max intensity events.
Right.
So, it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and then frame carry down and back. Only one drop allowed, which I actually think that's kind of I think that's interesting. 625, no straps. I think you guys will do good at that event. I think
so too. I'll be honest with you, Josh. I'm just gonna send it. I know this is gonna air Sunday, so I can say this. I'm just gonna send it, and I'm gonna bank on the fact that I won't drop it. And just see what happens. Because I feel like at a show like this, you kind of have to take risks if you're going to win.
Oh, 100%.
You have to be willing to take a couple risks. And if you're not willing to take those risks, you have a much lower chance of winning.
Oh, for sure. I think you'll do really good at that event. And then how's your sandbag bar over bar sandbag throw?
The sandbag toss?
Yeah.
After seven bags, I might get a little tired.
I think that's real interesting how many bags they have. 35, 40, 40, 40. So 35 and then 2 40s, 2 45s, and then a 50.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's another cardiovascular intense event, right? I mean, it's the first 3 bags I feel like are kind of the what I would call stride bags, right? Like you're gonna hit the 35, you're probably gonna throw it from the start line. You're going to take 2 steps back with the 40. You're going to hit the 40s. The 45, I think, is where the games get changed a little bit. And guys are going to have to rely on some technique to get over 15. 15, I feel like, has been that popular height for the different divisions in strongman. Obviously, like Strongman Corporation went through this huge phase of bag tosses over 15 feet.
Yeah.
So we're back to bag tosses over 15 feet again, which is super interesting.
Yeah.
But you're right. It all comes in waves, though. Like right now, the sandbag over shoulder, it's a wave. Sandbag toss, I think, is starting to die out a little bit. But
yeah, that is a really cool event to be the last event of the day. Like to have everything on the line with the bag tosses. I think that's a really cool finale for the show.
I think so too, and it's a cool transition away from because what does every show do as their last event? They probably do stone over bar if it's a big show.
Sure.
They do stone over bar, they do a stone series, something like that. So using a sandbag toss, I think, is a really cool way. It's going to add some drama. Now, it might end up personally biting me in the ass, but it is what it is. I think it's super cool.
Yeah, yeah. So how do you feel? Like, talk about the events, the 6 events. How do you feel going into Clash? Like health wise, training wise, just how do you feel overall?
So I mean, health wise, this is probably the best I've felt in years. I've been lifting weights since I was 10 years old. Without much of a break. So health-wise, this is probably actually the best I've ever been. So I really have no excuses here whatsoever. Training-wise, I had some of the events felt really, really good to me. That press medley, that starting press medley felt really good. I think I'm gonna do quite well there.
You're gonna win that event. You're gonna win.
I think that's a bet I could really have a high chance of winning. I think I can hit 10 reps. 8 to 10 reps is what I think I'll end up hitting on that log.
Wow.
I think it'll be a good event for me. And then the circus dumbbells, another event that's really peaked well for me. I'll be honest, at the start of my training, it was one of those events that I really had to technically drill because I hadn't touched the circus since I did the first Clash series. So that was, 6 months ago or whatever it was. So it did feel a little foreign at first.
I feel like just an event too. Like circus can just really like one day, Monday, it can piss you off, and then Friday it's like your favorite event. Like when it's clicking, and then when it's not, like you hate that thing, you know?
Yeah, and the interesting thing too is like, the way that I had to train it wasn't the actual press that was getting me, it was the tap and go because the 3-inch dumbbell.
Oh, okay.
I actually ended up having to change my form completely on the when I was bringing the block down because or the circus dumbbell down because typically I'd just be able to turn it and kind of catch in this hand. Where if that 3-inch, I have to bring it to my shoulder, bring my hand to the bell, and then guide it down.
Oh, okay.
So I ended up having to completely change the way that I completed that event. But that's another event that I feel pretty strongly about. I think I can hit 6 to 8 reps on it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a reason too. Like, that's an example of why specificity can like really play an advantage, like went into training because you trained with that 3-inch, and now you like, little things expose themselves that you'll do in the show now.
Yeah, in the first clash I did, it was a 3-inch dumbbell. I trained with the Louis Cyr. Because the other Clash shows, except for Clash in Jersey, used a Louis Cyr. So I anticipated that I too would use a Louis Cyr. So basically, my entire training, I went up to Phoenix. There's a gym, Liberty, up there that has a Louis Cyr. So I would go hit that dumbbell. And then I got to the show, and one of the things I love about strongman is things change.
Yeah.
So I see one of those big dog circus dumbbells. And I just think to myself, "Crap, dude, what did you do?" But yeah, I mean, I think one of the cool things about doing that show and doing this show is both the dumbbell at Clash in Jersey I think it was 180. I hit for 4 reps at the end of the medley. Man, it'd be sweet to hit like 7 on the 4th event and see that progress over time.
Yeah, for sure. That's cool. Yeah. So I mean, like, how do you see the day shaking out? Like, I know you don't want to say like you're gonna win, you know what I mean? But like overall, I mean, I think you'll hit some big PRs, like you said. It's always cool to see like events you've done in the past and measure yourself up against it. But like in the standings, how do you think you'll end up?
And so one of the mistakes I made when I first started this, Josh, this is kind of a sidebar, so I apologize.
No, you're good.
I would always think about, well, what numbers do I need to hit to win versus what was, physically possible for me at the time. So right now, based on what's physically possible for me at the time, I think that there's 4 events I could reasonably get top 3 in. I think there's 3 events that I could finish first in. I think the 3 events I could finish first in is the press medley, the circus dumbbell. And I think I'll do quite well at the frame. I really do.
I can see that being a very good event for you.
I think the yoke to sandbag medley, I think I can get top 3 in. The deadlift, I kind of have to swim to stay alive, see if I can crack top 5 in that. And then the sandbag toss, once again, at a show like this, you just kind of send it. I'm in the plan to send it. I think I'm bringing a package that can podium. But we'll see. There's lots of studs out there in my weight class. I respect the hell out of all the guys I'm competing against.
Right.
I think it's going to be a really tightly contested show. I'm going to predict that the final standings, the top 3 will be within 3 points of each other.
I can definitely see that. That's cool. Do you know exactly? Because I know there's been some dropouts. Do you know how many guys are coming?
Yeah. So right now, I think there's 11 guys total right now. We started at 15. We had some dudes who had to drop because of injury.
Mm-hmm.
We had some dudes that had some unfortunate, circumstances where they couldn't attend anymore. So right now it's 11 competitors, which, once again, it'll just make the show even tighter though. So
yeah, it will. But no, I think you'll do well. I mean, I'm just excited to watch, but that's really what I want to say about the Clash. And people can go to clashsps.com and you'll see the link. It's actually like CJ's little background right now if you're watching on YouTube, but we'll post a link too with it. But it's ADL live. All the streams are awesome with Clash, and it's $6. So if you're in the business of supporting strongman, hopefully you watched. This is airing after, but we'll post a link beforehand.
I have to say, I went to Hilton Head, failed the world log record on the ESPN. But I went to Hilton Head, and the coolest part of the weekend for me was getting to watch the way that Clash of the U105s was ran. and getting to see the way that the class show, the women's class show, was ran as well.
Hmm.
It was pretty incredible. I know the clash of the U105s, the finals, was done in about 2 hours, which
Right.
was super fast paced. And then the women's clash was done in about an hour and a half, 2 hours as well.
Crazy.
Um, and that was another interesting one because I ended up getting sucked into that one because Mel Peacock and Sam, they had this great battle going on for first. So it was a super interesting finale to watch.
Yeah. That was a really cool weekend. It was really fun to watch. I
Yeah, it was eye opening to what the sport could be.
Yeah.
If we ran shows the way in a 2 hour time frame, what it could be. It was
Right.
awesome to see.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you missed your log. At least you didn't break your back doing like a 135 deadlift in Jersey. That's what I did, trying to get to Hilton Head. So at least I would have liked to at least be there, but yeah.
Yeah, it's all right. It happens. It happens. That's how I felt about my bicep tear 2 years
Yeah.
ago.
Oh no, that's good. I feel healthy again, so that's all. I'm just that when you come off an injury like that, with your bicep, like you just feel so thankful to be like have the physical ability to train, and like it's something like it was really a wake up call for me, and like I will never take training for granted again, like genuinely.
Yeah, after I had the same experience. I tore my bicep, and what do you look forward to after your day at work? You look forward to training.
Right.
What do you look forward to when you wake up the next morning? You look forward to training. When I first tore my bicep, I remember I was very negative. I was like, you know what, this might be it for me in strongman. Maybe I'll go switch to bodybuilding, do something like that. And then, I kind of talked to my fiance. I talked to some of my close friends. They were like, dude, you just got to get out of this rut. You're bitter right now because you had a bad injury, but you're going to get over it and you're going to want to be back in strongman. So sure enough, the following week, I'm sitting there in my one arm cast doing circus dumbbell reps. I was
Yeah.
like, all right, you're right. I want to be back.
Yeah, that's to a T exactly how I felt, man. And it's like I own a gym, so it's even more miserable going down there and like having to watch all my friends train and everything when you're hurt. It's just like it's torture because it's what you look forward to. It's a hobby and it's what we like to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, like especially you owning a gym. I mean, I'm just part of a strongman gym.
Right.
It was cool being able to watch other guys progress, but at the same time, you're sitting there thinking, you're
It's
like,
like,
man, how far
dude,
behind am I falling?
you're right. I also I want to rewind real quick. I think you made a really good point that I kind of stuttered over was when I asked you how you would do this weekend, right? And you said that you used to look at versus the competitors and now you look at what's possible for you. I think for like novice to intermediate, because we have a decent amount of novice people that listen or intermediate, newer to the sport. And that's something we always try to harp on. I actually think we talked about it last week on our episode is if you and I, CJ, are going head to head, right? There's nothing I can do to prevent you from doing as many reps as you're going to do, right? All I can do is just control my own destiny. Does that make sense? So it's like focus on exactly what you can do and do as best as you can in those 5 to 6 events. And that's how you're going to end up. There's nothing I can do to stop CJ Pierce. You know what I mean? And there's nothing you can do to stop me competing against each other. It's
Yeah,
do your best.
yeah. I mean, as long as you do that, the only regret I've ever had is at the last class show I did in Jersey. I'll be honest, I was kind of I was in the middle of some stuff, and I didn't feel like training wise I had done my best leading up to that event to prepare. And it
Mhm.
showed. Like I was not in the best shape of my life for that show.
Right.
And I wasn't disappointed in how I compared to other people. I was disappointed in how I compared to myself. Because I've never once had a show except for that show where I've sat there and thought, man, you didn't do everything possible to be successful.
Right.
You know, and I think as long as you do everything you can do as an individual to be successful leading up to a show, you can't have any regrets. Like Josh, if you hit 20 reps at a 600-pound deadlift and I hit 10, and 10's what I'm physically capable of, guess what I'm gonna say? I'm gonna say, sweet.
Right.
You know,
Right. We had
I
a we
yeah.
had a guy we were out at a local show in Harrisburg, PA this past weekend, and we had a competitor who's brand new, had not even in the sport for a year, and he got second. And he was bummed out because he wanted to get a nationals invite. But all 5 events he PR'd. And we're
Yeah.
driving home and I'm like, dude, you just hit a 60-pound deadlift PR. You PR'd this time in this event, this. It's like, dude, that's awesome. Like that is seriously the best case scenario for you. Did the best you could.
Yeah, how can you possibly be match yourself, hitting PRs?
Right.
You
It's
know?
what you're physically capable of. That's awesome. And it's just going to
Yeah.
get better and better if you just consistently do that over time.
If I hit like 10 reps on that, deadlift, that 13-inch deadlift, and that's only good enough for fourth or fifth, I'm still gonna be stoked because 10 reps is pretty
Right.
good for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not my strongest event, but it's something I worked really hard on.
100%.
And I can't stop Nick O'Hare from hitting 20. I can't stop, the other dudes who are great pullers that are going to that show from hitting like 15 reps.
Right.
But I sure as hell can control my effort. I can control whether or not I'm going to quit. I can control my attitude towards it. Those are all things I can control, and those are things I can focus on as positives.
100%. Where to so 90s will wrap up this weekend. Make sure you guys go buy it. What's next for you after this show? Do you have a plan for the rest of the year?
Yeah, so I'm taking I have a big goal. But honestly, I've gone hard for a very long time. I'm getting married soon. So there's some life stuff that I'm kind of focused on, Now obviously strongman's a huge part of my life. I plan to do it till I'm 50, I hope.
Yeah.
And if I can do it past 50 and be like Ode Hagen, that'd be amazing.
Right.
But after the show, I'm going to take 2 months. I'm going to do a legit off season. I'm going to work on my strict press. I'm going to work on my front squat. I'm going to work on my conventional deadlift. I'm going to kind of move away from strongman implements for 2 months. That being said, when I return, I plan on hitting a 400-pound overhead at 198 in December.
It's huge. So axle clean and press?
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm gonna do the axle. I was gonna do it at my friend's show. She runs one of the Hope for the Holiday shows, which are always fun. It's a charity event. It'd be a cool place to hit 400 for the first time in my life. You only have so many of those presses in your body. You might as well do it at something cool. Do it at your friend's show, and
right.
Yeah, have some fun.
That's cool. So no nationals this year.
No nationals. No.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna save the money this year.
Yeah, I got you. I don't blame you. It talk about it all the time, but it's a hobby, man, and it's like I'm getting married in 4 weeks too. So it's like I understand like personal life stuff. It's expensive. It's at the end of the day, this is a hobby. We all have our real professions, our life, and everything. As much as training feels, like our life.
Yeah, and I'm gonna love watching. I have a client who's gonna be competing there. I'm gonna love watching her compete. I'm gonna love being able to follow some of my friends who are doing it. Right. It'll still be a fun weekend for me, but I'll just be, at different places here, which is okay. It's okay.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So are you referring to Gigi?
Yeah. Gigi will be competing at nationals. Yeah.
She's come down to she's a garage gym lifter, but she's come down to our place to train quite a few times. So we're pretty close to her.
Good. Keep her motivated when she visits.
And when I posted that you're gonna be on, she immediately DM'd me. He's like, I'm excited. So
oh yeah, no, she's awesome. She's gonna do great at nationals.
Yeah, she's competing at our winter show too at the gym. So
good.
Yeah. Good. But so pretty much a long. So what was so you're gonna go from a 368 axle, and your hopes is to hit 400 plus, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, that'll be the world record for your class.
Yeah, that'll be
the world record.
Yeah, that'll be adding to it a little bit, which would be pretty sweet. And I don't know, like I'm not a big world record guy. I've kind of moved past that standpoint. Sure. It's cool, right? But at the same time, it is really taxing on your body hitting those world records. In preparation for the log, I was pretty messed up. Like my back hurt all the time. My shoulders were both doing this weird clicking thing.
Yeah.
And then of course, once I started backing down my training, preparing, I did the Ode Classic. Again, I do that show every year just because I love Ode Hagen. Think he's an awesome dude.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I do a show every year, but preparing for that, which I think was like a 280 log for max reps at the end of the medley, my body felt so much better than trying to hit some huge number. So I think this will be like the last kind of big number I chase in my strongman career.
Yeah, I hear you. I did the deadlift attempt at Clash Jersey because it was kind of close to home. It was within 5 hours of our place, but like, I thought to myself, I'm like, I would so much rather be a well-rounded strongman. My overhead sucks. My deadlift is better for my class. But like, I want to just get my overhead better. Like, I want to be a more well-rounded strongman and do good at big shows. My goal is, do really well at nationals this year. So like, I hear you with the world record stuff.
Yeah. And like, it's really fun to do. It's a cool moment. But I'm a big time believer in you only have so many of those lifts in your career.
Right.
I foresee myself having 1 or 2 presses at 400 in my career, and that'll probably be it. which I'm okay with. That's part of the game. Our bodies aren't meant to last forever. Um, like I said, I want to do this time 40 or 50, but if I want to do time 40 or 50, I have to be smart about it. I have
Yeah,
to kind of, give up on chasing huge numbers and focus more on winning shows.
100%. Um, do you have any advice for first time competitors? So I want you to give advice to two types of people. So people that are newer to the sport, we'll say one or two shows, and then first time at nationals, because we have a lot of people that listen that are going to nationals for their first time. Bigger show, you can relate it to OSG, to any of those shows. But what would be your advice for like more novice people?
Yeah, so if you're a complete novice to the sport, I get sometimes I'll get like DMs from younger people, 18, 19 years old who are really interested in joining the sport. And I always tell them the same thing. My first show I didn't do super great at. Actually, well, my first show I did really well at was more kind of a CrossFit thing. The events were super light, high reps, which is something that I was already good at. But then my third show, I zeroed like 3 of the events. So my advice to anyone who's a novice is just to, you got to jump in. In order to get started, you have to get started. My first show that I did, I signed up 2 weeks prior to the show. I had no clue what a log press was. I just knew that I wanted to try it. I didn't know what a Zercher carry was. I know what all these things were. And then when I got to the show, what I did was I learned what these movements were. I asked the guys who are more experienced how to do it. I asked them how to do it effectively. And then, you kind of network. You start talking to guys who are successful and figure out what they've done to be successful. I think for any novice competitor, the most important thing is not to get frustrated, to talk to guys who have been there, ask for advice when you're at shows, and just jump in. There's no reason to get discouraged if you're not on the podium your first show. There's no reason to get discouraged if you zero. I zeroed at least 10 shows when I first started. Like, there's no shame in it. There's no shame. It's a learning curve for sure. And the only way that you're going to get started though is to jump in and do it.
Right. And I mean, how many shows roughly would you say you've done since you started Strongman? You're a pretty active guy.
Yeah, this is year 6 for me. Let's see, I started when I was 22. I'm 28. I usually do about 7 shows a year, so I'm probably at or around 40, I'd say.
Wow. So that's another thing I want to talk about, your experience, and it seems like you've been getting into coaching a little bit more. You touched on it a little bit. So how has that been now, like coaching athletes?
It's been fun. I've enjoyed doing it. And obviously, I don't do it for a full-time living. I'll take on, I don't have more than 10 athletes at once. And the reason for that is, my passion's education.
Right.
I love being a teacher. I love working in education. That's my passion. But then second to that is also, working with people and improving themselves. So I've really, really enjoyed, this is my first year actually doing it. I've enjoyed seeing the progress my clients are making. It's fun to watch.
Yeah.
But no, I've enjoyed it. At the start I had kind of a tough time balancing my own training with also training athletes, but it's gotten better over time.
Right. Yeah. I was going to touch on you being a teacher and working in education. You're just a very well-spoken guy. And it's like, I feel bad even like saying a cuss word on the episode. You're just such a nice, well-spoken guy. So it's good. It's making me better,
Hey, dude, no, and like, if you want to cuss, you totally cuss.
No,
I try to stay away from it just because when I'm teaching, third graders or I'm teaching like 10-year-olds, I never want to cuss in front of them.
Right.
So,
no, that's great. That's good. That's nothing you should like have to apologize. That's good. That's a trait I wish I had. I need to my dad listens to podcasts. Okay. Every week he listens to our podcast. And every week I ask him how he liked it. And he points out moments I swore and said it'd be better if you didn't swear. So he's gonna tell me on Sunday that he liked you as a guest because you're.
Oh, see, I hope I haven't heard you cuss yet, Josh. So I mean, maybe he might enjoy you as a.
I think you're rubbing off on me. Good. That's good. But if you guys are interested in definitely follow. I know Dante will have your name on the thing, your Instagram name. It's CJP_U90. Hit him up if you're interested in coaching. Definitely follow him. He's a great follow, fun to watch all his training videos and everything like that. Just a generally great dude. So if you're at a show and you see CJ, definitely don't hesitate to go up to him.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've really enjoyed this past year, I've seen it more often, is I have some guys who are interested in joining, sending me messages, asking me about how I got started, kind of asking me about what my journey is. And I enjoy getting people started in the sport. It doesn't obviously have to be coaching; it can be something super informal where we're just chatting about, how you get started. More than anything, I want to spread positivity for the sport. I want to spread the sport. I want it to grow. I'm not going to be, an athlete forever. I want to see a second wave come after me, who's hopefully dominant, who's fun to watch, who I can, support going forward.
Right.
So if any young guys, any younger individuals, young athletes want to get in touch with me, I'm always willing to talk about my journey, how I started, and how you can get started as well.
Right. That's a prime example of why I fell in love with strongman is guys like you that are like at the upper echelon, top level, and are always willing to help. Super nice. Go up to him at a show, talk to him, say what's up. That's great. So make sure you guys are following CJ. And hopefully he did well this weekend. Where this is airing on Sunday, so I think you're gonna do great.
I think it'll be a good show for me. I think
Yeah.
it will. And if anything, it wouldn't be my first humbling. I guess that's another thing I can say to novice guys is you're going to get humbled a lot.
Yeah.
So, here I am talking about how great I'm going to do on certain events. Who knows? I might get humbled. You never
Yeah.
know.
No,
And a
that's
good humbling is good for everyone.
right, for sure. I mean, I know everyone, we're gonna have it on the TV at 5-8 at my gym, 580 barbell for on Saturday or during our strongman Saturday. So we'll all be rooting for you because you're on the podcast this week. So
Oh, thanks, man.
got a full gym rooting for you on Saturday, man. But you have anything else you wanna touch on? Anything I missed? I mean,
No, like I just, I'm excited at the opportunity to compete at a show that, has the prestige of Clash. I think it's gonna be a really fun opportunity. I'm
yeah,
thankful for that. I'm thankful for the support from the community, and I'm really excited to be there.
yeah.
Not to sound like a walking cliche, but I really am excited to be there.
No, no doubt. It's gonna be awesome to watch. And like I said, we're excited to support you. So and everyone there, it'll be fun. I just I try to get it through to as many people as possible. I know I understand finances are hard for people, but if you're in strongman and you want to support it and you have the money, it's $5.99. Anthony Clash SPS on Instagram, Anthony Furman. They always post the links to their show. And if you go to their website, they're up there so you can see the upcoming shows. The under 80s is coming after CJ. It really helps strongman grow if you go and just buy that link. You can watch it back later. It's not a half-assed stream. It's a professional live stream. And
the guys do a good job. The ADL pro guys, they do a great job. It'll be a well-used $6.
well, for sure. So support that. We'll be rooting for you, CJ. Make sure you guys follow them, and we appreciate you coming on, man.
Hey, thanks, Josh. I appreciate you having me, man. Anytime anyone who wants to message me, always feel free. I'm always open to talking about strongman. Just thanks for having me.
Awesome, man. Thank you.